Shubor nakaslem jong unongsan Hima.
Ki langut ki start science ki bede bat ki mrat ni ki wildlife scientist ki bakin top yo arpit dio murari u Steve but Gorov Kataria ki lalap ki jat sim Tony breasted wren babbler ni ki speller ki ba im hapo khasi hills. Kini ki scientist ki lalap ru hadu shispa ar potli ki jat sim ha ki jingwat benya ha ki Bynta Jong kathan Sohra. Ye kini ki jat sim lalap ha ki Bynta Jong kathan Mawphlang Sohra but Mawkdok. Habaya keren bat kilat patai kubor na kalyang director kami Meghalaya Tourism Development Corporation uba Alan West Kharkangor ulaong bakila don Bynta ha kabanyarap yiki bregi bawat banya syapang ki jat sim bat kumjuru ban penne pensa yiki bakum kini hapo kejela na kalyang uba Alan ula kenturu yiki breu jong kathan bat kejela bak nyale ban penne pensa yiki bakum kini ki jat sim bak Kham Pher ki ba im bat ki don tang hapo kathan khasi hills ulaong ru bakani kalong kajing etrai lang hapadeng katna tourism Meghalaya Rural Tourism Development Forum bat kiwei ki rew syampang. Shusho na kalyang Gorov Kataria ubade unong seng ya ke Premium Bird Tour Company India Birding Tour ulaong. Bagajala Meghalaya ka don ni kajing la ban penkeu ki kam jengok kai Pyrthei lingba kajing don jong kijat sim ba Pher bat ke sarkar ka don kam ban penkeu ya kini kum makile hapo kejela Arunachal.
He has toured all over the world in India, and in fact in the US he's one of he has marked, done research, collected data, and also conduct birding tours in the US. In fact, one of the first birding circuit in the US is done by Steve. Arpit is a task. They've spent 3 days in Sohra, and I met them just now. And the good thing is that they have informed me that they have recorded not less than 130 species in 2 days. So just in 1 or 2 places. So most of you have not known also that in Meghalaya there is a bird that is endemic just in East Khas Hills. I think it's called the Tawny breasted wren babbler. It's endemic only to East Khas Hills. It's found nowhere else in the world. And fortunately, Gaurav and them, they managed to get a photograph of the bird in Sohra. So I'm not an expert in birding, wildlife. So I think I'll hand over the.
We three of us, we started from Delhi to explore some destinations in Northeast, which are least known. Well, there are many destinations which are very, very big, but Meghalaya especially, people know only certain part of Meghalaya about bird watching, and rest totally, it means whole state is completely unknown almost. And if for a bird watcher to come here, there is no infrastructure, there is no information, there are no guides to take people. Whereas if you see Arunachal Pradesh, tourism, the bird tourism is totally developed already, and state is earning almost millions of dollars every year just with bird tourism. Without rest tourism, we are not even talking about. So with Alan, it's my third trip with Alan here, and I wanted to see this bird. And this was my 7th trip to Meghalaya, but I couldn't find that bird. But yesterday, Alan suggested us a place, and through a friend we reached there, and we found the bird within I think a minute or 2. We played the call of the bird, and within a minute it was there. So that is actually like when we talk about bird watching tours, people from all around the world or India would like, it's always their target to find rare species and difficult species. And if you're talking about Tawny breasted wren babbler, that is completely endemic to Meghalaya. Means nowhere else in the world you can see that bird. So in longer run, means the idea is every bird watcher has to come to Meghalaya. But the circuit is not decided, the routes are unknown, there are no guides to tell, there is no accommodation to stay. So Steve came in from US and we were doing trip to Arunachal Pradesh, and then I called up Alan that we would like to do a short exploratory trip to Meghalaya, and we came in, and within 3 days, 3 nights we spent here, and we saw almost 120 plus species, and we have I think we have missed plenty. We must have missed at least 30 species. Because it's a new destination for us, and the calls were difficult for us. And as you know, as I told you, like there are no records or there is no information there. So Steve can elaborate it as an international birder, how it feels to be here.
As a pastime or a hobby, bird watching or birding is just growing exponentially around the world. It's the fastest growing hobby in the world today. And so I think getting ahead of the curve and kind of taking on board that you have a very special bird here, that the potential for bird watching groups and individuals, and especially bird photographers coming out here, is huge. The bird in question, I mean, we're talking about this one bird. We really should have a picture of it, but maybe I should just describe it. It's about this big. It is the size of a ping pong ball, and it's tiny. It's a brown color, but it's intricately patterned with all sorts of scaly patterns, all over it. It's kind of beige and brown, but it's beautiful. And it hides amongst the rocks and ferns and will just like pop out and then hide back again. So it lives mostly in just kind of, near a waterfall, underneath ferns. And so I think for all of us, you should have just seen the smiles and whoops of joy when we got to finally see it. This is a dream come true. And like Gaurav said, for visiting bird watchers, whether they're from India or the US, from the UK, wherever, having a central bird like that to focus on is just so important. That's what's going to draw people to this beautiful state. But also what we were doing with, looking around the area and checking it out for other species, it's a long way to come just for one bird. And so you want to have that whole assortment of cool stuff to see. And that's what we were running into. I mean, we had a beautiful flock of broadbills just come whooping by us, and then we ran into a bamboo partridge, which is super unusual to see. I mean, we had such a variety of things. And one of the really cool things about this area is just the road systems, how you'll be up on the table, up on the plateau, and then they go all the way down to the Bangladesh border. And so you're covering a real elevational range. And you get all different birds as the habitat changes. And just within a couple of hours, you can see a huge range of species. So from my perspective, just seeing how all the vegetation and the birds changed very quickly was really exciting.
Yeah. About the topic of it, but Arpit has traveled all around the country documenting birds, and he's been very, very closely associated with Wildlife Trust of India and WWF. So he has traveled all around the country, but it's his first trip to Meghalaya, and his speciality is to use technology for conservation, how to protect and use technology to get data. So Arpit will explain it better.
First of all, thanks Alan for having us. As Gaurav mentioned, technology and big data. I've been planning for Meghalaya and it never happened or occurred. But if you look at the data for Meghalaya, from visiting birders and everyone, there are only around 600 people who have reported birds from Meghalaya. Right? Almost around 425 around number of the bird found in Meghalaya. Only 600 people have seen, and that's also a couple of hotspots. Like it could be Sohra, it could be Balpakram or Nokre, and 510 checklist. I mean, only few people comes here. So there is virtually no data available for Meghalaya. That where a birder comes and goes. Because if I come down and I have to go for like 3 days or 5 days for one single bird, it's become costly affair. Secondly, my PhD is I worked on the climate change impact on the bird distribution, that how climate change will suffer the bird patterns. So what's happening here, and particularly on the edge or the near border states, many species which is occurring on Burma or other states, other countries, will start moving northward. That is the global phenomena happening, that most of the species from this, it's going northward or more cooler areas. So this area might receive some new species which were never occurred in India. So that also becomes more of a tourism point of view to look at that how those places are surveyed and conserved with the help of local communities, because their circuits or their trails and their knowledge can easily be, like I was talking to Alan, I mean almost all birds have a local name. They might not know the English name or something, but with a training and support on birding side, it can be worked out easily. Thank you. 20 species. Tony belly wren babbler was the star species, obviously. And we missed on one species which is also very critical to this area. It's called dark rump swift, or earlier it was known as Khasi Hill swift. It's a small black bird you will see on the sky. These two species only found in this part of the region, East Khasi and part of Meghalaya. Another interesting fact about, if you look at the North Indian birds or the northern northeast, I mean above Brahmaputra and below Brahmaputra, many species have a variations. So we've seen green-tailed sunbird. So on northern side, you will have a red color on their breast, on the throat area. Here, it's completely yellow. So for birders, those are the checkpoints that I have cleared the above Brahmaputra Valley, below Brahmaputra Valley, that kind of way. We are also planning to do technology to do survey, because see, birds are shy, and particularly where there are threats or disturbances, they shy away, they will not come out in open. So we have developed a technology which, it's a small device, you place in a forest, it automatically records the bird call, whatever birds are singing. So you just simply put it up, and once that data comes to me, I can identify through machine learning and artificial intelligence that which bird is calling and from where it is calling and how much active they are. So that also helps in planning a birding day or a circuit like that.
When you see it's
So the population of Tony wren babbler is, as per the bird life, is around 500 odd number, but unfortunately none of the survey has ever happened. You know, these are very less known species, and all of their data is, prehistoric, where we found. So in 3 days, I think still we got it at around 5 places, 5 to 6 places we found this bird. But what's the actual range? What's a preferred habitat? So their habitat is also written as like 1500 above elevation meter, and coniferous gullies, ravines with a fern kind of a coverage, and broadleaf forest, along with open area. So in Scarecrows and those areas, we heard it completely open grassland, a small ravine covered with a fern. There also we find that bird. So need to study these species to understand their biology, what is the population. Currently, bird life is classified as a near threatened, because the range is hardly, would be 1000 or 2000 kilometers.
Babbler in a very spectacular place, the Linxian Falls. So it's also a popular tourist destination, and I think you managed to get a good picture of this bird.
We got very good pictures of the bird. Also, we got some nice videos. So we'll be happy to share them if required.
does the human activity what scare with these such birds?
Well, for sure, the habitat is going well. Means you can't stop everything, but there were a lot of loud music and party happening. So of course, means if a lot loud sound disturbs us, so you can imagine the bird. So that's what me and Steve were discussing yesterday. That the human presence is of course disturbing them, and
I think to a certain extent, though, you can imagine a trail or some restaurants close to a waterfall, for instance, and where we saw the Ren Battler, it was very close to a popular waterfall, beautiful place. It wasn't too loud, but the birds didn't seem to be too bothered. But you can imagine if you went down that stream a little bit more into the jungle, they're not really getting bothered. And typically with birds like this, their territories tend to be linear, that they're kind of down the same kind of gully. So you're getting further and further away from human disturbance. So I'm hoping that the forest isn't cleared and these guys do fine.
So then this entire idea of having, when they told me about this bird, I went to a place where I took them on the first day. We could hear the sound. We could find people killing the birds. So the idea here is to inform people that you have such a bird in Meghalaya that is found only here, nowhere else. So to appeal to people at large to conserve it, to protect it, because it's a state pride, it's the only bird found in the entire globe. So an appeal to communities, to people at large to identify the bird. I'm not very sure what is it called in Khasi. I'll have to manage to find the Khasi word so that people will know about the existence of this bird. And it is urgent that as a community we should protect it immediately.
Let's say word famous. Everybody would know about that. That's the identity. And here we are just taking that word for granted actually, because just because of lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think we should spread this word that this bird is here, and it's the identity of Meghalayan birding.
I see a parallel close to where I used to live in the US. The most recently, the newest species in the US is something called a Kesha crossbill. It's very similar to another species, and they split them apart so that suddenly there was this new species. It's only found on 2 mountains in southern Idaho. And no birders were really going there at all, just local people. It's a beautiful area, don't get me wrong, but it's, you're not going to travel thousands and thousands of miles just to go there. Suddenly, it's the new hot place to go. And all the American birders, international birders want to go there just to see this one bird. And the economic boom that's happened is a very rural community. You don't really get the homestays so much there, but you get bed and breakfasts and hotels. Just an economic boom. During the summertime, in the winter it's all snow. And you can imagine a similar situation here, not just with this one species, because here it's much more diverse. You have a whole bunch of different bird species. And then we're just talking birds. There's all sorts of other very cool animals, clouded leopard, and some of these very exciting
Alan
animals.
showed us a picture of fishing cat, and so see the idea is what is the investment here? I mean, what kind of investment government needs to do? It's like you got the product ready. You don't have to create anything. You got your forest, you got your bird, you got your wildlife there, right? So it's not you want to create nothing, right? It's already there. The only thing is you have to identify it, right? Means we can't have industries here. Industries are polluting. Here we have a big bird industry. Steve would know better, but in the US, birding is $1 billion university, economy, like Colombia. It's again huge. And India is right now in India it's the fastest growing hobby. And Indians are spending so much money in buying equipments and stuff like the cameras we are carrying is like almost 10 lakh rupees and stuff, and Canon and Nikon say that they have sold maximum cameras in India. So you can imagine the kind of investment people are doing for bird watching. And if they have bought that camera, they have to use it, right? So they have to go somewhere in the field. So why not Meghalaya get ready for it? Arunachal has already done it. Nagaland is doing it, and Meghalaya has got the star species. Everybody has to come in. Sooner or later, they have to come.
It's really interesting as well. I brought out groups from the US out to India specifically for birding. I've got four trips this year. And one of the classic places in the northeast that everyone's heard about is Arunachal Pradesh. Eagle Nest Preserve. It's world famous. And it became famous because of one bird, the baboon leotuka. It is a phenomenal place, but it's very remote. It's a bumpy road that takes you there. You've got to be careful of elephants, and then you're camping. So it's a certain type of person that will go there. And you have to be a hardcore birder. The amazing thing about here is you can be in a, as a couple, and maybe your partner isn't a birder, and you might be a hardcore birder. You can go off and see the wren babbler, and your partner can just go to the waterfalls, and they can, just take advantage of all the other beautiful attractions while staying in a nice hotel or homestay. The infrastructure's here. When you look at some of these other regions like Arunachal, up in the mountains, that isn't there, and you've got a very long car journey to get anywhere. So there's a lot of things going for you guys.
So there's just a direction required, like if state government can think of a direction. Means we are here, means we can do certain things, but it has to be the policy of state, like how to direct things towards bird watching tours. Because it's big and it's not demanding and it's not polluting. Like birders are very disciplined people. They don't throw things here and there. So it's very easy. They can stay wherever if they get the normal accommodation, normal food there, and they pay more. So a bird watcher would pay 3 times more or 4 times more than a normal tourist. Because he wants an exclusive vehicle for himself, he wants to hire a guide, he will stay wherever, and he will pay equal amount for accommodation or anybody else is paying. So these are bird watching tours are expensive, so the state gets a lot of money out of it. So imagine hosting.
Tiger, what we do, we place camera trail. Then we detect the tiger is there or not. And then we identify individuals, so we'll get an idea of that, what is the population density within the region. So the idea is we'll deploy these acoustic devices in a proper spacing, like grid-wise, every 2 kilometer, every 5 kilometer, like that way. And once the data comes in, we'll be able to judge that where are the population densities are.
I think the other approach that augments that is typically, initially, you look at the habitat requirements for that particular, species. And so using various mapping software, you're able to delineate where you would expect to find it. And so you start off with a state, and then you put in the elevational range, and so you restrict it down, and then you throw in riparian areas, and you restrict it down even further, and then you throw in maybe some habitat requirements. So you're left with a very small part, and then on top, and then you start placing these listening devices or do bird surveys. So there's various approaches where it makes it a little bit easier